Now, over 12,000 Census 2022 field workers will be deployed across the Western Cape in South Africa this evening as the national population count gets underway. The homeless inside and out of shelters will also be enumerated with a specific homeless questionnaire. Now, StatsSA in the province says it has identified hotspot areas in order to reach as many homeless people as possible. The homeless are amongst the first group of people to be counted. The scale of homelessness was once thrust into the spotlight during the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizations working in the homeless space, they say the census is an important tool for authorities in order to allocate budgets accordingly. StatsSA says it is prepared to kick off census night where the homeless, the transient population and those living in communal living quarters will be enumerated. A specific questionnaire will be used to count the homeless population. All right, now to discuss the state of readiness for the census in KwaZulu Natal specifically, we're joined now by SABC senior reporter Vusi Khumalo, who is in Durban. Also, a very good evening to you. Now, we've just been talking about Cape Town and how it's going to focus on homelessness. We know that that is a particular or peculiar problem to the Western Cape at the moment. What about KwaZulu Natal? What will it be its focus?
Yes, good evening, JP. So yes, indeed, we are here in Durban live at the Mansell Road here at the Durban CBD. We are with the local people here who are staying here at the Mansell Road. It's a huge block of flats with a number of people who are staying inside this facility. Some of them are selling so many sorts of wares, your dishes and other sorts of housing items that are being sold in this area, but they are also staying or sleeping in some of these units that are scattered all over in this area of Durban CBD. Yes, indeed. Today is the beginning of the census night. As you know, that the housing and population census is beginning today. It is just underway. It's just kicked off in a number of places nationally. With KwaZulu Natal having so far not having some of the problems, but perhaps there could be some teething problems here and there. But you are going to hear that from Ashwell Jenica, who is also the Deputy Director General of the StatsSA. Welcome on SABC 24-hour news channel, sir. Just tell us some of the, some other people will say that how important is the census in the country? How will it help us, especially for government, when discharging services to the people?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. The census is critical for planning purposes, for knowing how to allocate budgets, for understanding what the shortfall is in municipality in terms of service delivery. Who's got toilet facilities, who's got electricity, who's got water. Those types of services, the census gives us very good idea of that is, and also to know whether people are employed or not employed and what sort of economic activities exist at a very small area layer right throughout the country.
And you are beginning with the homeless and those who are staying in transit camps. So far, will you say, have you had any problems? This program having kicked off, has just kicked off in just about a few or couple of hours ago?
So tonight we're counting the homeless, those that's coming in and out of the country, the transients, and then also special dwelling institutions. It's a massive exercise, and we had wonderful cooperation from the people here in Durban, and so now we're counting all the homeless throughout the country. This is the first time we're doing digital census, and we're asking people to register. Registration has been slow, and we want to encourage more people to register. So we've extended registration till the 5th of February because we want more households to register so that they can choose whether they want to enumerate themselves or whether they want the enumerator to come or whether StatsSA should phone them to partake in the census.
Okay, during the hard lockdown, I think it was in early 2020 when it was implemented, a number of government institutions, even government itself, was having problems in terms of tracking down the homeless people. But here in KwaZulu Natal, especially in Durban, they were found to be 4,000 that were sheltered around Durban in that area. Have you had any problems of perhaps trying to track down some of them, because we know that they do not have a permanent place to stay or to live in?
Fortunately for us, the homeless, in terms of where they are and how they're organized, is very well organized. So we've been making arrangements for the last couple of weeks, going to visit the homeless, doing some publicity to make sure that when they see the green and the ID and the caps from the enumerators, that they are sure they are not being harassed, that they're being counted. So they're being made aware of this, and the homeless are giving their cooperation tonight.
Okay, we've been traveling with you. We haven't seen police. This is a night. I mean, during this time of the day, it's very, I mean, with crime levels so high, especially here in Durban, in KwaZulu Natal. Have you had any problems, perhaps? Are you perhaps anticipating any problems so far? Because we haven't seen police going with you in these areas. Are the field workers themselves safe from doing their work?
So we've got arrangements with the Provincial Joint Operations Committee, the police, the National Intelligence Agency. And so the arrangement with the police tonight is that they stay on the outskirts. We don't want the police to be with us when we're counting, because then the homeless will feel harassed, and we don't want that. We want the homeless to feel free to make sure that they do get counted. But we've made arrangements with the police that they stay on the outskirts. In case there's anything, then they could step in. And as the enumeration would go on, police will keep being involved in terms of making sure that our enumerators are safe. But as far as possible, we're also trying to pair our enumerators so that there could be safety in numbers.
Okay, before in other censuses, 2011 and the other one before that, I mean, StatsSA was being criticized for undercounting. What have you done this time around to ensure that that mistake does not repeat itself?
Okay. So the last time around, we missed 16% of the population, and what we do is a post-enumeration survey to make sure that we know how many people we've missed, so that we can adjust the data accordingly. This time around, we've made sure that our frame with 17 million households is complete, and so that we know exactly how many enumerators we should appoint, and that's why we've got about 165,000 people that's going to go out there, and each of them will get between 100 and 150 households, and they would be able to count those. We're also asking people to register themselves so that people can count themselves. So as soon as we see there's issues in certain areas, we will do another call on people to please register, so that you make sure that this census, which is so important for our own counting, but also for our children, our children's children, their planning and their future. So we need to make sure that everyone gets counted in the country.
Have you had perhaps done any sort of intelligence to sift the mood of the people, because we know that it's during the times of COVID-19, some of the people who may not be that welcoming. Have you had a chance to do that?
Well, what we know is that people are not keen to open their doors in general, in terms of people are scared, crime, COVID, and all those things. And that's why we're asking people to make sure that they exercise their right to count themselves, or to choose whether we should phone them. Because when people are not feeling comfortable with coming to their household, it would be in their interest to register and say, no, I will count myself.
When it comes to the homeless, we know that Home Affairs has got a huge backlog of people with no IDs. how will you ensure that such people are also counted, they are in your database, especially with regards to the homeless, because we know that they don't have a permanent place to stay and they cannot be able to have such possessions in their own.
So when it comes to counting, we don't ask the ID numbers, and so whether you've got an ID or whether you do not have an ID, we will still count you. Doesn't matter where you're in South Africa, legally or illegally, we count everyone within the borders of South Africa. So everyone that uses resources and that gets services in South Africa must get counted, because local government must know how many people there are. So we're not interested in ID numbers, we're not interested in any way what your legal or any other status is.
Okay, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. That's Mr. Ashel Cheneka saying that they're counting everyone who's within the borders of South Africa, whether people are foreign nationals or not. He's saying that everyone is being counted by themselves as StatsSA. With that, SABC, so it's back to you for now.
All right, Vusi, just before you go, just share with us if you have spoken to people, whether around you or in other parts of KwaZulu Natal, how they particularly feel about the census. We were watching the census press briefing. For instance, one of the things that they were pointing to is how it'll help us as a country, particularly from a point of view of investors. Now, that seems very high level for somebody who thinks counting me certainly doesn't help me in getting a job. I'm still not able to access my basic services. How do people feel about it generally, the census?
Yes, having talked to a number of people, I remember that doing a story just yesterday. We were interviewing a number of people in such a number of, even in special dwelling units, in some of the hostels and transit camps. Those people were saying that they couldn't wait to be counted, because many of them do understand that this process may make them to be able to have better services in terms of government providing the basic services, in terms of the access to basic services such as water, electricity, housing, which is one of those thorny issues when it comes to government providing services to the people. Some of them forcing them to stay in such places such as are being homeless, and many of them are staying in some of these centers for the homeless people. We also saw a number of these field workers going to such places, asking or giving these people questionnaires to also answer. Some of them are saying that they will be able to answer these questionnaires in a very honest manner. They will not be able. They are saying that they cannot be lying to when they are answering to these questionnaires. They will be very honest when it comes to answering some of these questionnaires. But some of them, they are saying that they were willing to be part of the census so that government will be able to discharge services accordingly, so that they are able to live a better life, which was promised by government a long time ago, in the time of Nelson Mandela. So they were saying that they were willing to be part of it. They cannot be, they wanted to be counted, to be part of this year's census, which was delayed. Of course, we understand that the last one was 2011, and the second, this one is the fourth one, was supposed to take place last year, but due to COVID-19 and the lockdown, it had to be held this year because it took time, 11 years ago, so it was supposed to be held last year.
Thank you so much. My colleague Vusi Khumalo, who is out and about in Durban and KwaZulu Natal as the census in South Africa begins today. Now, farming